Welcome to the Mentally Whole podcast. I am your host, Lauren Green. This podcast is a safe place for us to have weekly discussions about mental health, Christ, personal development, and the tools to live our best lives. Please stay tuned for a new episode. So hey y'all, welcome to another episode of the Mentally Whole podcast. I am your host, Lauren Green. I know this episode is coming out a little late, but here we are, right? Don't forget to subscribe, share, rate, and review the podcast. Share this podcast with someone who you think would enjoy the information. Also, don't forget to fill out the listeners survey. The listeners survey helps me to understand my listeners and understand what kind of content you guys want. So this week we are starting a new series. Whoop, 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 whoop. So the new series is called Love Jones, based off the movie, right? I love the movie Love Jones. And so this series will be focused on love, relationships, singleness, all of the things, right? Because February is known as like the love month because of Valentine's Day, and it's going to be a good series. I have a few guests lined up, and I think it's going to be a very great and impactful series. So let's get into today's discussion. So today's discussion, we are talking about attachment theory. Attachment theory is one of the theories that I kind of just fell in love with as a therapist. And I also I found it interesting even when I was an undergrad in grad school. So about maybe sometime last year, I read the book, Why You Do the Things You Do, The Secret of Healthy Relationships, The Secret of Healthy Relationships by Dr. Tim Clinton and Dr. Gary Sibsey. So before we get into the book, what the book talks about, what the book says about attachment theory, I'm going to give you a little background about attachment theory. So the theory was formulated by John Bowlby, who knows? So attachment is a deep and enduring emotional bond that connects one person to another across time and space, right? So in our lives, we have this emotional bond with people in our lives, right? Like we are attached to our mothers. We can be attached to our fathers. We can be attached to our friends or co-workers, right? John Bowlby also studied the importance of a child's relationship with their mother in terms of social, emotional, and cognitive development. Attachment is also characterized by specific behaviors in children, such as seeking proximity to the attachment figure when upset or threatened, right? John Bowlby and another woman by the name of Mary Ainsworth, I believe. I didn't write this down in my notes when I was researching, but I should have. They did studies that help show the link between early infant separations with the mother and later maladjustment. So with this theory, they studied early infant separations, right, from the mother or even the father, and it kind of helped formulate or kind of highlighted almost what the child will struggle with as they get older, depending on their attachment type. So there are 4 types of attachment: secure type, avoidant, ambivalent, and disorganized, right? So we are going to start with secure, right? Secure is probably the easiest one for me to talk about. So when the person has a secure attachment style, they are confident that their caregiver will be available to meet their needs. They use their parent or caregiver as a safe base to explore the environment and seek the attachment figure when in distress. The secure type develops when the caregiver is sensitive to the child's signals and responds appropriately. So I have the book up because I want to go into more detail about what sensitive parenting is. Okay, so some beliefs that fuel the secure style are: I am worthy of love, I am capable of getting love, others are willing and able to love me. A person with the secure type is able to express their thoughts and opinions confidently. They don't feel the pressure to perform to earn their self-worth. Right? And they're also able to express their anger in a healthy way, right? Because in the book it says the healthy expression of anger can actually be a healing experience, especially when the other person doesn't feel overly threatened by the anger and become defensive. Anger is often the catalyst that leads to forgiveness and restoration, two key aspects of healing. Okay, so I want to get into the sensitive parenting piece. Because to have a secure type, your parents must have had sensitive parenting. So the first characteristic of a sensitive parenting style is regulating emotions, right? It's important, if you want your child or someone to develop a secure style, is to help the child learn how to self-soothe and calm down when they're upset. Right? This allows the child to develop an ability to focus attention outside of themselves and onto other things and people. Another characteristic is knowing a warm relationship, right? Helping the child experience relationships that are safe, warm, and interesting. Warmth instills the notion that relationships are where one turns to when upset or needs comfort. Another characteristic is self-awareness. So parents will help their child learn how to express in words their thoughts, feelings, attentions, and physical sensations, right? Self-awareness helps a child regulate their emotions, and it becomes the basis of empathy. So one of the things I do with the clients, I work with is like, hey, I get that you're crying, but I need words. You know what I'm saying? I tell my clients all the time to use their words. I don't understand what you're trying to convey to me when you're crying, screaming, yelling, and kicking, And the last characteristic is sensitive parents are developmental focused. So that means they are learning how to meet the various developmental challenges of their lives, right? They're learning how to live within limits, live within, the rules that are set, how to become self-motivated, how to deal with separation from parents, how to get along with peers, how to respect authority, so forth and so forth, right? So basically, as a sensitive parent, you're teaching your child how to become a good person, right? Right. So let's move on to avoidant. So avoidant means that, basically the Bowlby and Ainsworth did a study. It did an experiment, actually. That's what I like to call it. And they studied various, mother and child relationships. And for this study, they had a two-way mirror. And so the psychologists could see on the other side, but the people couldn't really see them in the room. So for this study, they would have the mother and child, do stuff together in the room, like play. And they would have, at some point in the experiment, have the mother leave, right? And so the attachment types were developed by how the child responded when the mother left the room and when the mother came back into the room. So avoidant, most of the time the child will avoid their parents or caregivers, Usually the avoidance behavior usually starts after a period of absence from their parent or their caregiver. The avoidant type, they might not reject attention from their parents, but neither do they seek out comfort or contact. So for the avoidant type, as adults, they may have problems with intimacy. They might invest little emotion in social romantic relationships. And they also might be unwilling or unable to share their thoughts or feelings with others. Beliefs of the avoidance style include, you ready for it? Include, amen, that they are worthy of love based on their success and accomplishments. They are capable of getting love but must depend on their own self and abilities. Others are either unwilling or incapable of loving me. Others are not trustworthy. They are unreliable when it comes to meeting my needs. So the whole statement of, being not trustworthy or unreliable, that comes from that parent, like having a period of absence from their parents. So when their parents, just left them, the child will start to feel like, people aren't trustworthy and people aren't reliable. Let's go to ambivalent. I hope I'm saying that word right. So usually when this child is an ambivalent style, the child is very distressed when separated from their caregiver or parent. They are extremely suspicious of strangers. So another part of the study was that they would have the parent leave and then have like a stranger to the child come in the room and then have the stranger leave and have the mother come back. That's where the suspicion of strangers comes from. A person that's the ambivalent type are not reassured or comforted when the parent caregiver returns. So as an adult, a person might be reluctant about becoming close to others and worry that their parents do not reciprocate feelings. So some beliefs of the ambivalent style are: I am not worthy of love. I am not capable of getting the love I need without being angry, clingy, or desperate. Others are capable of meeting my needs but might not do so because of my flaws. Others can be trustworthy and reliable, but they might abandon me because of my worthlessness. Ain't that good, y'all? That is good, ain't it? It's good. So a big thing with the ambivalent style is they don't want, hold on, let me get my thoughts together. So an ambivalent person would, always be walking on eggshells. They might fear, the slightest wrong turn or the slightest misstep will destine them for anger, disappointment, and rejection, right? They also might have a fragile sense of self, which also cause them to have very strong ambivalent emotions, which means that some days they might have this feeling of intense love or feelings of intense hate. So while we're talking about ambivalent, let's look up what that word actually means, because I'm like, ambivalent, what does that mean? Oh, so ambivalent means having mixed feelings or contradictory ideas about something or someone. So they might have intense love feelings or intense hate feelings toward their caregiver or the people that are just in their lives in general. Let's see what else about ambivalent. Also, an ambivalent style person that has this ambivalent style might grow up in an emotionally confusing environment, which could cause them to fear abandonment. Right? They might believe that no one who loves me this much could ever leave me. Right? Right? Another thing that I liked and that they said in the book was that this kind of confusing emotional environment can corrode our sense of self and cloud our belief that we have the ability to be loved, to get the love we want and need, right? So this emotionally confusing environment can be very unpredictable, right? And it also develops the two core beliefs of I'm poor at getting the love and comfort I need, and I have to please my loved ones or I will be worthless and unlovable. It's getting good, y'all. This is good to me. I don't know about y'all. So the last attachment type is disorganized. So disorganized can be a mix of attachment behaviors, right? There will be a lack of clear attachment behavior. So they might have a mix of secure, ambivalent, and avoidant. They might have a mix of all three. They might just have a mix of ambivalent and avoidant, right? They might have dazed behavior. They might be confused or apprehensive, right? Most people that have disorganized type might have had inconsistent behavior from parents. So they might have been reassured, but they also might have been afraid. So beliefs of the disorganized type are: I am not worthy of love. I am not capable of getting the love I need without being angry and clingy. Others are unable to meet my needs. Others are not trustworthy or reliable. Others are abusive and I deserve it. Right? So one of the things that I want to note from the book, let me see if I can find it, y'all. A person with the disorganized type might have had a loss of a safe haven, right? They didn't have the opportunity to have their parents as a safe place, right? And meaning safe haven, they didn't have that security of their parents to be their safe place, right? Because as children, we always seek someone who is stronger and wiser than us to protect us, in the world. And so sometimes children do not have this safe place in their parents, right? So sometimes this can happen from child abuse, neglect, rape, sexual abuse, emotional neglect, sexual abuse and incest, right? Because you didn't have that parent to be your safe place, right? So to wrap this up, one of the questions I want to leave you guys with is what type of attachment style do you guys most relate to, right? What attachment style do you most relate to? I know I said a lot of information in a short period of time, but you can Google attachment theory and all of the different types will come up. So I hope this episode blessed you guys. Stay tuned for the rest of the Love Jones series. And if you have any questions, email mentallywholepod@gmail.com. Again, the email is mentallywholepod@gmail.com. The link for the book that I was talking about will be in the show notes. And have a great week.